So, there was a debate in Parliament about the grooming gang petition, which was started a long time ago by Johnny over there.
Yep, our own Jonathan Wong.
Yeah, and John went on Hearts of Oak yesterday with Peter Markovena to talk about this. Big plug to Hearts of Oak. I wasn't
Good
keeping
lads.
my ear to the ground on this, so I managed to get the clips. Go and support them. That's John there, in case you don't know what he looks like.
Yep.
The one on the left. Anyway, so we'll just show the petition so people know, which is the next link.
Yep.
So this is just the petition saying release the grooming gang report in full. There was released.
It got the 100,000 signatures really quickly as well.
Yeah, good job everyone who signed it.
Yeah, which is what you need to get the Parliament to debate it.
So some of it was released. It didn't seem to be the full
What was the date that it was created, sorry, the petition?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Can we scroll down a little bit, John? Because there's presumably... Right, so it's been over a year, or almost a year, for the debate to happen.
Yeah.
But okay, so it took about a year, right, fine.
Yeah, just
Whatever.
as fast as you'd expect.
Yeah.
So, and then we have a link to the debate, which is just the parliamentary website.
It's just children being raped.
Yeah, it's not that important.
It's not, not something you should fast track or anything.
And if you want to watch the full thing, it's there, but we just clipped it down because no one's got that time.
Yeah.
And fair enough. So the response from this, I expected to be Conservatives yet again saying that this is just far right nonsense. We're not going to go into it. Labour saying it's far right nonsense. We're not going to go into it. And then everyone just moves on. And surprisingly, no. There was actually some good news out of this, which is the Conservatives are willing to accept what is reality and has been proven to be reality.
Wow!
For
Thank
years.
God.
Unfortunately, Labour hasn't.
Of course.
But no change then. So the first video here, it's a bit long, but it's worth it.
Let's hear it.
So let's play it.
Many of them do feel that the report doesn't go far enough. They believe it only touches upon the issues, and if it is a start of something far more significant, then okay, but if it's the end of it, then they feel very unsatisfied. I would support them in saying that I do believe further action should be taken. One of the key problems here has been the lack of data relating to which has made it difficult to really go into detail regarding the characteristics of the grooming gangs and those involved. And I think that has been problematic. I mean, some honourable members have raised the point that if the data is not available, then surely you can just look at those who have been convicted and you can gain a pretty accurate picture there. I think there is a wider point here, though, about this issue and about whether it was political correctness, for want of a better word, or something else, or concern about cultural sensitivities, and the fact that it does seem, in many cases, that the majority of those who've engaged in this evil act did seem to come from one particular community. And they feel, and I agree with them, that if it is the case that certain crimes are disproportionately committed by members from certain communities, then we should be open and honest about that and address it. Because actually, by sweeping it under the carpet and not addressing it, it actually makes tensions and divisions worse down the line. We look at the role of racism and how many of the victims of this appalling crime feel as though it is the concern from certain individuals that they would be branded a racist or called out for being a racist if they spoke the truths that they know them to be on some of these matters. But actually, a lot of these victims, who more often than not are white, working class girls, our girls, their view is that they were, on occasion, specifically targeted because of the fact that they were white, because of their Westernness, and because of the fact that they weren't Asian. And that is how they feel. So if you disagree with how they feel, then I would encourage you to have a discussion with them, because that is how they feel. And therefore, the information and the data about the ethnic background of those who have been found guilty of these crimes is necessary if we are to gain a profound understanding of this appalling crime, learn the lessons and ensure that it never happens again. And if we do believe that this kind of racism towards white girls is a driver here, if we do believe that that is the case and it's an aggravating factor, then we need to address it, and we need a report that addresses it and gets under the skin of the issue in a way that it hasn't so far.
Good speech.
Really good. Who was that?
I don't know his name. I'll get it afterwards.
Right, okay.
But there's a whole bunch of these guys.
I wish we could give him a salute, basically, because
Yeah, good speech.
yeah, very
Guy.
good.
Yeah.
And the way he addressed the allegations of racism, basically, it's like, these girls feel like it's racial profiling and racial targeting, and if you don't agree, go and talk to these girls and they will explain why they feel this way.
He's calling out the absurdity of the last few decades, which is that if you ever talked about this subject, you must be the racist here.
Yeah.
When the real racism story about this whole thing
Is the other way around.
Is the other way around. Yeah. The groomers targeting victims because of their race in many cases. And if you, as he says, if you disagree with that, he's talking to the Labour benches, go and meet with the victims who are saying that. Mm-hmm. Go and tell them they're wrong.
Go on, Naz Shah.
Yeah, tell them the
they're not going to shut up for the sake of diversity, Naz.
Yeah.
Go and have a chat with them, Naz.
We're gonna try and go through these a little faster because there are a few.
Yeah.
So this next one is an ex-children's minister. So he's been dealing with this problem in his time as well. And he is also solid on this, saying that the police were ignoring the Pakistanis, and that is disgraceful and needs to be dealt with.
And we before we start, we've got loads of stories about this. I mean, we've covered them lots and lots of times, and it's really embarrassing. It's genuinely embarrassing why the police will treat the men involved in this as if they are not capable of committing a crime. It's just horrible.
Yeah. Johnny just gave me the name of the previous speaker. His name's Tom Hunt. So
Tom
look him
Hunt.
up.
Good man.
Tom Hunt. So this is the next guy talking about it.
CSE can happen anywhere to anyone, not something exclusive to northern metropolitan boroughs or people from estates on the other side of town, or just to troubled girls, as some honourable members have mentioned. I met survivors of CSE from the families of doctors and lawyers and middle-class backgrounds and heard their deeply harrowing accounts. Now, I mentioned the CEOPS report, Out of Mind, Out of Sight, because this and all these reports had uncovered a systemic and systematic culture of neglect, secrecy, and in too many cases, willful complacency to call out the issue of teenage white girls, in some cases boys, being sexually abused by British Pakistani grooming gangs. It was a taboo subject. It was swept under the carpet. The victims often regarded as having asked for it disgracefully, and the insidious tentacles of political correctness often suffocating action.
Yep, totally
Excellent.
Right. And just before we head out, the reason we're focusing on this point is because there's a million other things I know people could argue about procedure and how to deal with CSE. We are dealing with the specific point here of the fact that the neo-socialist types with their cult of diversity were actively, this is the worst thing they've done.
Shut up for the sake of diversity.
Yeah, this is their worst action, which is causing thousands of girls to be raped on the basis that we better not say anything because it might be racist. And the next one is the guy making this point.
Over 2 decades, in Rotherham alone, 1,500 children, some as young as 11, were raped. Let that sink in. 1,500 children in one town were raped. So why was there a cover-up? Because it was a cover-up. The J report stated the agencies turned a blind eye to the localised grooming of young white girls by hundreds and hundreds of men of Pakistani heritage. And a 5-year investigation by the Independent Office for Police Conduct found that the Rotherham police ignored the sexual abuse of children for decades for fear of, and I quote, increasing racial tensions. Whistleblowers were given the cold shoulder, and council employees lived in fear of being called racist for intervening.
For stopping paedophiles. So the next one here is another Conservative MP, and I'm proud of them. Like, they're actually coming out saying these things.
Good for them.
He's just saying facts actually matter, and this report, it can go to hell because it's not going into the issue that it was asked to go into. So let's play this.
Facts are often inconvenient. They're sometimes disturbing and they're occasionally alarming. And the facts are that in Oxford, 373 children, including 50 boys, may have been targeted over a 16-year period, according to a serious case review. In Rotherham, as we've heard, 1,500 children, most of them white girls between the age of 11 to 15, were sexually abused, predominantly by British Pakistani men. And in Rochdale, 9 men who abused girls as young as 13 were convicted over a child sex grooming ring. And we know again that the Pakistani community was disproportionately represented amongst those convicted. Those are the facts. But the fiction, and it's well illustrated by the Home Office report that was published last December, which is a study in obfuscation, by the way, the fiction is that we can't draw conclusions about whether or not certain ethnicities are overrepresented in this type of offending. We must not allow concerns about causing offence leave children vulnerable to sexual exploitation.
I just want to labour this point. This is because of woke culture. If someone has to say to you, why is woke culture bad? This is why. Gets children raped in the UK. Now what? Next question.
Yeah.
What these people are disgusting. It's why I hate the woke people. Anyway, so it wasn't all sunshines from the Conservatives. There was one guy who I found a little bit laborious in his ending, but he did generally agree with it. I'm just going to play this one. So he's in Anne Cryer's seat. A lot of people know Anne Cryer because she was a whistleblower 20-odd years ago. And apparently nothing's changed in 20 years. It's still going on. And the Home Office not dealing with it is their shame.
It is now more than 20 years since one of my predecessors as the MP for Keighley, Anne Cryer, first raised her concerns about grooming gangs and child sexual exploitation within the Pakistani community within West Yorkshire. Anne did a good job and brought the issue to the forefront of conversation and did the right thing in raising it. More than 20 years have gone by and nothing really has changed. Unless we talk about this openly, we are failing. So let's call this problem out for what it is. Predominantly a small minority of largely Muslim men within West Yorkshire, including, I am sad to say, in Keighley, that have been sexually exploiting young children for far too long. And the Muslim community are quite rightly outraged at the entire community being branded with the same accusation. And it is not fair, and it is deeply offensive.
So,
well, if it's deeply offensive, then we'll better shut up about it.
Yeah, we'll just let the girls be raped, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm annoyed by that. He is correct in saying that the entire community shouldn't be tarred with you or paedophiles and so on and so forth.
Of course.
I agree.
But
there is
why
a
aren't
unique
they
problem.
self-policing?
There is a unique problem.
I mean, there was in the 2013 Baron Worsey report about how actually these grooming gangs also target Muslim girls because they believe that Muslim girls are, quote, coconuts, who are brown on the outside and white on the inside, which means westernized. They would engage in the rapes. And there was the one bit that really, I just can't shake it out of my head, where one girl was taken up to a room and raped by some guy, and then the guy just called up a bunch of his family and friends and said, hey, do you want to come over and have a go on this girl? And a bunch of them, dozens of them, came over and raped this girl. And I'm just thinking,
there was one boy in his school uniform.
I'm just thinking there is not one person on earth I could call who would come over and do that. If I called you up, hey, Callum, I've got a girl, do you want to come over and have a go? You'd be like, what? You know, if I called anyone, you'd be like, what? Any of my friends would be like, I'm going to the police, mate. I don't know what the hell you're doing. Don't call me again. The cops are going to be around in a minute. You know, what the hell are you doing? But no, instead, dozens of these men come around. Oh, but where is the community? Where is its internal policing? Why was that something that was just normal?
Fucking gross. Anyway, the next person to speak, so then I want to go through the Labour responses, which are starting with Sarah Champion. Sarah Champion's one of the better ones.
Yeah.
She was the one who mentioned that this problem was going on and lost her job.
She's
for
the one who speculated that 1 million English girls have been raped.
She was the Women's Minister for Labour, and for saying that there was a problem with the grooming of children, which we now know about 1,500 in her town were being exploited. She lost her job. Labour kicked her out for saying that, and then put Naz Shah in charge of her job.
Naz Shah, who retweeted, "Girls should shut up for the sake of diversity."
That's who they put in charge of women, of women's issues.
And she mistook an Owen Jones parody account for Owen Jones saying this, that these girls should shut up for the sake of diversity, and she's like retweet. It's like idiot.
But the point she makes here is it's still ongoing, and also that she isn't taking S from anyone.
I've been vilified, I've been smeared, I've been threatened, and that's by the far right and the far left, who use this crime for their own political agenda. The only impact it's had on me is I get a taste of the intimidation that survivors have to endure. I want to turn to Rotherham. We're very fortunate because we have the National Crime Agency carrying out Operation Stovewood. It's looking at cases of CSE by grooming gangs between 1997 and 2013, so just a 16-year period. But already they've identified 1,569 survivors, 261 designated suspects, and to date we have had 20 convictions at court and 4 await trial. This is in 16 years. I know survivors who are 70 years old. Think about the scale and the length of time of this abuse.
So if you can get the links up, this is just to talk about Operation Stovewood, which she's talking about. So 1,569 victims confirmed, 261 suspects, and at least 20 convictions already. This was in October of last year. Still more arrests, 15 arrests there. The next link is just December, more arrests taking place. This never stopped. This never went away. Rotherham wasn't a one-time thing. It just keeps going and keeps going.
I mean, we have here only ever sung Sarah Champion's praises for this. So she's obviously not referring to us vilifying her.
When they say this on far right, yeah. I mean,
I don't know who they're talking about there, but
this is the problem with the Labour Party. The only most charitable interpretation is what one of the guys gives, which is like the EDL or Britain First. But I don't really know much about these groups anyway, so I don't really want to comment.
Them, really.
Sorry. But the next one is the typical Labour response, and it gets worse and worse. So the first one here is saying that the far right are going to explore this if we ever talk about it. And also CSE is committed by everyone, so this isn't really an issue. So,
in a recent Home Office report, about 10,500 cases were flagged as potentially CSE related. The victims of CSE were said to be mainly young women, predominantly 14 to 15 years old, who had a number of risk factors that made them vulnerable for exploitation. However, I will not let those far-right groups, wherever they may skulk, get away with lying and trying to sow hate, division and blame on this issue. I repeat, child abuse occurs in every community, in every part of the country, in every part of the world. And I'm committed to root it out wherever it may be.
Pathetic.
Do these far-right groups just exist in her head or something? She can't seem to identify who they are or where they are. But they exist somewhere out in the ether, and she's committed to opposing these phantoms.
But also the universalising there. I'm against all paedophilia.
Yeah,
but are you aware of the specific problem here? But I'm against all paedophilia.
Okay, but this one, condemn this one.
Like Jeremy Corbyn, are you against IRA bombing? I'm against all bombing. You can tell it's disingenuous. Yeah. And it continues. The next one is just another Labour MP basically saying that this is all a myth. This isn't really happening.
Oh.
I'm particularly concerned about the increased risk of online harms related to child sexual exploitation during lockdowns, where children are spending more time online, away from school, and where far-right myths about the ethnicities of offenders in group-based child sexual exploitation are being exploited online in order to fuel divisions between different communities.
Unbelievable. I mean, what are all the convictions about if it's just a myth? Why is it when we look at the faces of the people convicted, they're like 90% from one community? Why is that the case?
Not to mention, the Conservatives have never wanted to talk about this.
No.
I can see why, because of the political
cost. It's difficult, yeah. But I mean, another thing about this...
We're at the point where even mainstream Conservatives are like, yeah, no, there's a problem here, and if we ignore it, we are screwed.
Yeah.
And you're still like, it's not happening, it's a myth.
Talking about this will create division between communities. You don't think the acts themselves are creating divisions?
Do you not think mass rape of certain ethnic groups by other ethnic groups creates division?
Unreal.
I guess not. I guess that's not important. Anyway, and then the last one here is a guy saying that, again, it's universalizing. It comes from everyone. Everyone engages in this.
Stunning.
And also, I guess if we had to pick a problem, I guess it's the patriarchy that's at fault for this.
Go on then.
So, play this.
Offenders can come from a range of social backgrounds, some of whom have been stable middle-class professionals, some of whom were married, whilst others have had more chaotic lifestyles. The one thing that would hamper efforts to tackle group-based child sexual exploitation is to falsely claim the criminals belong to only one religion, one ethnicity, or one race. We know this is fake news. Yep. An official independent statistics attest to that fact. And these falsehoods are exploited by the far right to create racist divisions within our society, perpetuating myths and stereotypes. People like the English Defence League and Britain First using the images of survivors against their wishes, organising marches, stirring up hate online. It's not about conforming, Madam Deputy Speaker, to political correctness, but if we adopt the language or assumptions of hate groups, we fall into a very dangerous trap. The devastating reality is that sexual abuse can happen within any community, be it white British, Sikh, Hindu, Muslim, or other backgrounds. Let us be clear, this is about patriarchy and power, discounted, dismissed, and dehumanized, not only by those who rape them, but also by the authorities they turn to for help.
Notice that. Hang on. This is really important, right? This can be the case. This can happen. Potential. He's speaking about something that hasn't happened, but strictly speaking, I mean, it could be. It can happen that a massive asteroid comes down right now and boom, end of the podcast, right? That can happen. But what did happen? That's the question that we're asking. Not what can happen, what did happen. And the convictions imply that something specific did happen. You goddamn disingenuous Labour scum. Can't read that out, I'm afraid, John.
John's written us a message about
Yeah,
that.
but
this is the state of the Labour Party. When you see the disingenuousness there, that people are claiming that it all comes from one. No one is claiming that it all comes from one place. You heard the Conservatives in front of you for the last 30 minutes saying disproportionate.
Don't know what you're talking about. What the Britain Third? Where are they? Like the EDL don't even exist anymore. Like what the hell are you talking
How
about?
many members have they got?
Well, no, they don't exist. I mean, Tommy's.
No, Tommy left them, but like they're still running. But how many people?
Well,
30 people in the
where?
basement?
What do they do? Where are the protests? What are they doing?
Yeah, there's mass movement that's rising in the polls.
Yeah,
totally threatening.
Like the far right are a phantom in this country.
But the far left, that's you guys. That's you guys right there who sing the Internationale in our parliament.
Yep.
And then come up with like issues of paedophiles and are like, yeah, it's not really happening if it's the foreigners. That doesn't happen. It's like scumbags. I hate the Labour Party. Absolute scum.